everyone. So our topic for today is all about agrarian reform and cooperative. Agrarian reform is considered wider than the land reform. The term comprises not only land reform, the reform of tenure, production, and supporting services. In the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform, the Reform Law of 1998 or RA 6657, agrarian reform is defined to mean the redistribution of lands, regardless of crops of fruits produced, to farmers and regular farm workers who are landless, irrespective of tenure arrangement, to include the totality of factors and support services designed to lift the economic status of the beneficiaries in all the arrangement. Alternative to the physical redistribution of lands, such as production or profit sharing, land administration and distribution of shares of stock, which will allow beneficiaries to receive a just share of the fruits of the lands they work. Types of cooperative. Agrarian Reform Cooperative is one organized by marginal farmers, majority of which are agrarian reform beneficiaries, for the purpose of developing an appropriate system of land tenure, land development, land conciliator, or land management in areas covered by agrarian reform. Three types of agrarian reform and cooperative. First is cooperative support agrarian reform program. Second, cooperative benefit farmers. Third, policy of the state with respect to cooperative. Aims of the agrarian reform. The CARP or Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program is an agrarian reform law of the Philippines whose legal basis is the Republic Act No. 6657, known as the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law. It is the redistribution of private and public agricultural lands to help the beneficiaries survive as small independent farmers, regardless of the tenural arrangement. Its goals is to provide landowners equality in terms of income and opportunities. Second is empower landowner beneficiaries to have equitable land ownership. Third, enhance agricultural production and productivity. Fourth is provide employment to more agricultural workers. And last is put an end to conflicts regarding land ownership. We have three objectives of the agrarian reform. They are political, social, and economic. Political is to put an end to conflicts pertaining to land ownership, to bring about harmony between the rural people and the urban residents, bring stability in the political setup of the country. Second objective is social. Social is bring about equality in terms of opportunities, income as well as wealth. This leads to a dispute between the people who own land and those who do not possess land. The dispute cannot be avoided unless some steps are taken for the betterment of the rural population. Third objective is economic. Economic is enhancing agricultural production, enhancing agricultural productivity, bettering capital formation, providing employment to more agricultural workers, enhancing demand for raw materials and services, improving balance of payments by facilitating export activities, trying to increase production at home so that imports do not have to be relied upon, enhancing cooperating as well as regulation between agricultural sector and the non-agricultural sector, strengthening the cooperative movement of Presidential Decree No. 175, whereas a parallel measure to the emancipation of tenant farmers from feudal bondage as provided for in Presidential Decree No. 27, dated October 21, 1972. Is a provision for a strong social and economic organization and system to ensure that they will enjoy on a lasting basis the benefits of agrarian reform. Whereas there are equally less fortunate segments of our society who who are in need of social and economic amelioration and should have the right to enjoy the privilege of self-development, social growth, and economic independence under a truly just and democratic society. Whereas there is a need to increase income and purchasing power of the low-income sector of the population in order to attain a more equitable distribution of income and wealth. Whereas the cooperative institution is a means of attaining a more equitable distribution of income and wealth and providing the common man a dignified level of existence. Whereas the Benihan spirit is an inborn trait of the Filipino people, which if properly guided can serve as a strong foundation of cooperative institution. Now, therefore, in order to effect the desired changes and reform in the economic, social, political structure of our society, I, Fernando E. Marcos, President of the Philippines, by virtue of the power in me vested by the Constitution as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, and pursuant to Proclamation 1081 dated September 21, 1972, and General Order Number 1 dated September 22, 1972, do hereby order and decree the following. Section 1, Declaration of Policy. It is hereby declared the policy of the state to foster the creation and growth of cooperative as it means of increasing income and purchasing power of the low-income sector of the population in order to attain a more equitable distribution of income and wealth. Section 2, Cooperative defined. Cooperative shall mean only organizations composed primarily of small producers and of consumers who voluntarily join together to form business enterprises which they themselves own, control, and patronize. Section 3, Cooperative Principles. A cooperative shall be governed by the following principles. First principle is open membership. Membership in a cooperative should be voluntary and available without artificial restriction or any social, political, racial, or religious discrimination to all persons who can make use of its services are willing to accept the responsibilities of membership. Second principle is democratic control. In primary cooperatives, irrespective of the number of shares owned, each member can only cast one vote deciding upon the affairs of the cooperative. Third principle is limited interest to capital. Share capital shall earn only limited interest, the maximum rate of interest to be established by the Department of Local Government and Community Development from time to time. Last principle is patronage refund. Net income after the interest on capital has been paid shall be redistributed among the members in proportion to their patronage.
Section 4, Powers of Cooperatives. Cooperatives shall have the following powers. First, to exercise the same rights and privileges given to persons, partnerships, and corporations provided under existing laws. Second, to establish and operate business enterprises of all kinds as their needs dictate and their capabilities allow, subject to the provisions of existing laws. Third, to establish rural banks under the Rural Bank Act or to purchase government-held preferred shares of rural banks which may be converted to voting common stocks under the rules and regulations to be promulgated by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank and the Agrarian Reform Fund Commissions. Fourth, to enjoy all the privileges and incentives granted by the NACIDA Act and those granted by all government agencies to business organizations under existing laws, provided that all requirements are met. Fifth, to petition the government to expropriate either urban or rural lands for agricultural production, cottage industry, business or housing purposes, and last, to own and dispose of property, to enter into contract, to sue or be sued, and to do and perform such other acts as may be necessary in the pursuit of its objectives. Section 5 Privileges of Cooperatives. Cooperatives shall enjoy the following privileges. First, exemption from income taxes and sales taxes provided that a substantial portion of the net income of the cooperative is returned to members in the form of interest or the patronage refunds. Provided further that for income tax purposes, non-agricultural cooperatives shall be exempt for a period of 5 years and agricultural cooperatives for a period of 10 years reckoned from the date of registration with the Department of Local Government and Community Development. Provided finally that the taxable income shall mean that portion of the cooperative's income after deducting the interest paid to members and patronage refunds. Second, in areas where appropriate cooperatives exist, the preferential right to supply rice, corn, and other grains, fish, and other marine products, meat, eggs, milk, vegetables, tobacco, and other agricultural commodities produced by members of the cooperatives concerned to state agencies administering price stabilization programs, and last, in appropriation case, exemption from the application of the minimum wage law upon the recommendation of the Bureau of Cooperatives Development subject to the approval of the Secretary of Labor. Section 6. Financial Assistance to Cooperatives. There is hereby created a Cooperative Development Loan Fund for the development of the cooperative movement. Sources of funds. This fund shall be financed from the following sources. First, general appropriations. Second, proceeds of sales of U.S. Public Law 480 commodities. Third, foreign loans or proceeds of sales of commodity loans. Fourth, grants and donations. Fifth, levies imposed by existing laws on agricultural commodities for the development of cooperatives. And last, such other sources as are now provided by existing laws or as may be provided for in the future. Next is uses. These funds shall be utilized for the following purposes. First, source of loanable funds to cooperatives. Second, serve as a guarantee for loans granted to cooperatives. And last, source of advances to cooperatives for the purchase of equity of rural banks. In no case shall any portion of this fund be utilized for direct loans to farmer members. As far as practicable, funds shall be channeled through existing government and private financial institutions. Next is administration of fund. For purposes of administering the fund, there is hereby created a management committee composed of, first, a representative of the Department of Local Government and Community Development who shall serve as chairman. Second, a representative of the Central Bank. Third, a representative of the Philippine National Bank. Fourth, a representative of the Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources. Fifth, a representative of the Department of Agrarian Reform. And last, two representatives of the cooperative movement designated by the Secretary of the Department of Local Government and Community Development. The Management Committee shall have the power to administer this fund and prescribe rules and regulation for its utilization. Next is other financial assistance. The Agrarian Reform Fund Commission, Greater Manila Terminal Food Market, National Development Corporation or their subsidiary institutions or the subsidiary institution of any government financial agencies or any government agency is authorized to establish or acquire fixed facilities such as strong facilities, processing facilities, food markets, and other facilities, requiring large long-term investment which shall be leased or sold to cooperatives. Section 7. Management and Training Assistance. There is hereby established a Management and Training Assistance Program. It shall create a central management and training pool to be composed of top caliber managers, who may be assigned to actively manage a cooperative or cooperatives for the prime purpose of training an understudy or understudies to assume management thereafter. In this connection, it may contract for and defray the cost of professional managers or firms who shall actively manage cooperatives as part of the training program. Cooperative managers contracted for this purpose shall be exempt from WAPCO salary rates. Training programs to develop cooperative managers may be undertaken by any existing educational or other institutions on contact basis. Suitable and practical management training materials and guides shall be developed for the use of cooperative managers. The Management and Training Assistance Program shall be administered by an advisory board of 5 members to be appointed by the Secretary of the Department of Local Government and Community Development, at least 2 of whom shall come from the cooperative system and 1 from the Department of Agrarian Reform. The management training program shall be financed from the following sources. First, general appropriations. Second, income from the Cooperative Development Loan Fund. Third, grants and donations, and last, contribution from cooperatives.
Cooperative is a component of agrarian reform. In Republic Act No. 6657 of June 10, 1988, an act instituting a comprehensive agrarian reform program to promote social justice and industrialization, providing the mechanism for its implementation and for other purposes. In Chapter 1, Section 3, cooperatives shall refer to organizations composed primarily of small agricultural producers, farmers, farm workers, or other agrarian reform beneficiaries who voluntarily organize themselves for the purpose of pooling land, human, technological, financial, or other economic resources and operated on the principle of one member, one vote. A juridical person may be a member of a cooperative with the same rights and duties as a natural person. Cooperative participation in the implementation of agrarian reform. In 1940s, cooperative marketing law which directed the organization of farmers into marketing cooperatives. Republic Act No. 583 created the Small Farmers Cooperative Loan Fund. Republic Act No. 821 created the Agricultural Credit Financing Administration or ACCFA, which organized the Farmers Cooperative Marketing Associations or FACCOMAS. In 1950s, establishment of the Federation of Free Farmers or FFF, which became the largest organizations of rural workers in the Philippines. Members are fishermen, agricultural laborers, agricultural tenants, owner cultivators, and settlers. As active supporter of agrarian reform and rural development program, Federation of Free Farmers has helped rural workers participate in government decision-making and implementation. Over the years, it has helped cooperatives manage projects. In 1960s, establishment of Agricultural Credit Cooperative Institute or ACCI. Enacted the Agrarian Reform Code, Land Bank of the Philippines was also established during the same year. In 1969, the Agrarian Reform Code was passed, mandating that co-ops be utilized as primary conduits for credit, supply, and marketing services to agrarian reform beneficiaries. In 1972, under the Land reform program during the martial law, the tenants farmers were obliged to compulsory join a pre-cooperative organization called Samahang Nayon. In 1990s, the Cooperative Code of the Philippines was enacted. The Cooperative Development Authority was created. The National Cooperative Movement or NCM and the Philippine Cooperative Center PCC were organized. In 1998, the Co-op National Confederation of Cooperatives NATSICO Network Party was formed by members of NATSICO and landing a seat in the House of Representatives. 1986 Section 2 Republic Act No. 6657 recognized the key role of cooperative in CARP. The state shall recognize the right of farmers, farm workers, and landowners, as well as cooperatives and other independent farmers' organizations, to participate in the planning, organization, and management of the program, and shall provide support to agriculture through appropriate technology and research, and adequate financial production, marketing, and other support services. Republic Act No. 6657 in Section 29. In general, lands shall be distributed directly to the individual worker beneficiaries. In case it is not economically feasible and sound to divide the land, then it shall be owned collectively by the worker beneficiaries, who shall form a workers' cooperative or association which will deal with the corporation or business association, until a new agreement is entered into by and between the workers' cooperative or association and the corporation or business association. Any agreement existing at the time this act takes effect between the former and the previous landowner shall be respected by both the workers' cooperative or association and the corporation or business association.
To this topic, first I will present to you the cooperative organizations and the development of the DAR, which is the Department of Agrarian Reform. But before we discuss the cooperative organization and its development, we must need to know what is the purpose of the DAR. DAR is a lead government agency that holds and implements comprehensive and genuine agrarian reform which utilizes equitable and land distribution, ownership, agricultural productivity, and tenurial security of it with tilers of the land towards the improvement of their quality of life. So the role of the DAR, they formulate and enact policies, plans, and programs for the distributions and contribution of all agricultural lands. So much for that, so let's proceed to the cooperative organization. The current secretary of the DAR is Mr. John R. Castriciones. The department shall consist of the department proper, staff offices, and staff bureaus, and the regional, provincial, municipal agrarian reform offices. The department proper shall consist of the following. First is the office of the secretary. Second is the office of the undersecretaries. Third is the offices of the assistant secretaries. And fourth, public affairs staff. Fifth, special concern staff. And lastly, the agrarian reform and justification board. So the office of the secretary shall consist of the secretary, his immediate staff, the public affairs staff, and the special concern staff that is under on section 8. So, undersecretary, the secretary shall be assisted by the 4 undersecretaries who shall be appointed by the president upon the recommendation of the secretary. The secretary is hereby authorized to delimit, assigned or reassign the respective functional areas of responsibility of the undersecretaries, provided that such responsibility shall be with respect to the mandate and objectives of the department, and provided further that no undersecretary shall be assigned primarily administrative responsibilities. That was according to section number 9. Assistant secretary, the secretary and the undersecretary shall be assisted by 7 assistant secretaries who shall be appointed by a president upon the recommendation of the secretary. The secretary is hereby authorized to delineate, assign, or reassign the respective functional areas of responsibility of the assistant secretaries, provided that such responsibility shall be respect to the mandate and objectives of the department. Section 10. The public affairs staff hereby is created a public affairs staff under the office of the secretary to be headed by a director and assistant director, which shall serve as the public information arm of the department. It shall be responsible for disseminating information and agrarian reform policies, plans, programs, and projects, and respond to the public queries related to the implementation of the agrarian reform. Section 11. Special concern staff. There is hereby created a special concern staff under the office of the secretary to be headed by a director and assisted by an assistant director, which shall be responsible for handling priority areas or subjects identified by the secretary that necessitate special and immediate attention. Section 12. So we have the Agrarian Reform Adjudication Board. There is hereby created an Agrarian Reform Adjudication Board under the office of the secretary. The board shall be composed of secretary as a chairman, 2 undersecretaries as may be designated by the secretary, the assistant secretary for the legal affairs, and 3 others to be appointed by the president upon the recommendation of the secretary as members. The secretariat shall be constituted to support the board. The board shall assume the power of function with respect to the adjudication of the agrarian reform cases under Executive Order number 229. In this executive order, in this power, the function may be delegated to the original offices of the department in accordance with rules and regulation to be promulgated by the board that was under section 13. We have also the staff sector bureaus. On the other hand, shall be composed of: first is the Bureau of Land Acquisition and Distribution. Second is the Bureau of the Land or Bureau of Land Development, Bureau of Agrarian Legal Assistance, Bureau of Agrarian Reform, Information and Education, and Bureau of Agrarian Reform Beneficiaries Development. So, the field offices shall consist of the department regional offices, the provincial offices, and the municipal agrarian reform office. So that's the organizational structure of the agrarian reform. So let's proceed to the history or to the timeline of the DAR, which is the agrarian reform. Pre-Spanish period. It was stated here that the better system wherein goods such as crops are traded for another goods. Let's proceed first to the Spanish period. During the Spanish period, conquerors are granted encomiendas by the king as the reward to them. First, Philippine Republic. So, General Emilio Aguinaldo declared his intention to confiscate larger state. So, especially the so-called friar lands. American period. Philippine Bill on 1902, Land Registration Act of 1902. It was under Act number 496. And then Public Land Act of 1903, Tenancy Act of 1933 that was under on Act number 4054 and 4113. Commonwealth period. During the Commonwealth period, there are acts that is implemented that are Commonwealth Act number 178, an amendment to Rice Tenancy Act number 4045. That was on November 13, 2936. The National Rice and Corn Corporation, the NARIC, in 1936, Commonwealth Act number 461, 1937 Rural Program and Administration created on March 2, 1939. So the Japanese occupation, we all know that the hukbalahap or the hukbo laban sa hapon. So that's the hukbalahap during the Japanese occupation. Manuel A. Rojas in 1946 to 1948. So he enacted laws. The following are Republic Act number 3 established the 70-30 sharing agreements and regulating share tenancy contracts. So we have also the Republic Act number 55 provided for more executive safeguard against arbitrary ejectment and tenants. Then we have the Philippine Republic was headed or led by Elpidio R. Quirino during 1948 to 1953. He was enacted the following law. We have the Executive Order number 335 issued on October 23, 1950, replaced the National Land Settlement Administration with the Land Settlement Development Corporation, or what we call the LASEDECO, which takes over the responsibilities of the Agricultural Machinery Equipment Corporation and the Rice and Corn Production Administration. Philippine Republic under Ramon Magsaysay during his 1953 to 1957, Republic Act number 1160 to 1954 abolished the LASEDECO and established the National Resettlement Administration or DENARA. Republic Act number 1199, Agricultural Tenancy Act of 1954, Republic Act number 1400s, the Land of Reform Act of 1955, and Republic Act number 82-1, creation of Agricultural Credit Cooperative Financing Administration. President Carlos P. Garcia on the year 1957 to 1961. He was continued the program of President Ramon Magsaysay. No new legislation passed. During the time of Diosdado P. Macapagal, year 1961 to 1965, he was enacted some laws. We have the Republic Act number 3844 of August 8, 1963, the Agricultural Land Reform Code. Ferdinand E. Marcos, 1965 to 1986, Proclamation number 1081 on September 21, 1972, ushered the period of the new society. President Marcos enacted some laws. So we have the Republic Act number 6389, Code of Agrarian Reform, and RA number 6390 of 1971, Presidential Decree number 2 on September 26, 1972, and then Presidential Decree number 27, October 21, 1972. President Corazon C. Aquino during his term on 1986 to 1992. So, President Corazon C. Aquino enacted laws, Executive Order number 228 on July 6, 1987, Executive Order number 229 July 22, 1987, Proclamation number 131 July 22, and 1987, Executive Order number 129 on July 26, 1987, Republic Act number 6657 on June 10, 1988, or the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law. So we have also the Executive Order number 405 that was on June 14, 1990. It is also known as the vested in the Land Bank of the Philippines. And we have lastly the Executive Order number 407 during June 14, 1990. So let's proceed to President Fidel V. Ramos, 1992 to 1998. President Ramos enacted laws, Republic Act number 7881, 1995 amended certain provision of RA 6657. So he also enacted Republic Act number 7905 on 1995, strengthen the implementation of the CARP Executive Order number 363 on 1997, Republic Act number 8435, year 1997, which is the Agriculture and Fisheries Modernization of Act, AFMA. And we have also the Republic Act number 8532, 1998, or the Agrarian Reform Fund Bill. Joseph Estrada, 1998 to 2000. So President Estrada initiated the enactment of law, Executive Order number 151, September 1999, or the Farmers Trust Fund allowed the voluntary consolidation of a small farm operation into medium and large scale integrated enterprises that can access long-term capital. President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo during his term in 2000 to 2010. So we have the Land Tenure Improvement, or the DAR, will remain vigorous in implementing land acquisition and distribution component of CARP, provision of the support services, infrastructure projects, Kalahi Arc Zone, and agrarian justice. Next president is Benigno Simeon C. Aquino, 2010 to 2016. The Agrarian Reform Community Connectivity and Economic Support, or the ARCSES, Agrarian Product Credit Program, or the APCP, the Legal Case Monitoring System, LCMS. Aquino enacted Executive Order number 26 series of 2011 to mandate the Department of Agriculture, Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Department of Agrarian Reform, Convergence Initiative to develop a national greening program in cooperation with the other government and agencies. So we have also the current president, Rodrigo Roa Duterte, 2016 until present. So we have also President Rodrigo enacted laws. So President directed the DAR to launch the second phase of agrarian reform, where landless farmers would be awarded with undistributed lands under the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program, or the CARP. Also placed 400 hectares of agricultural lands in Boracay under CARP. And the AR created an anti-corruption task force. And then lastly, the Upland Zero blocking resolution of cases in the relation of agrarian justice delivery of the Agrarian Reform Program to fast-track the implementation of CARP.